Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about my week number 9 wide receiver rankings for fantasy football in 2021. Inside today's video, we're going to be going in depth into my top 32 ranked wide receivers of the week, as well as explaining why I have them ranked at each and every single spot inside the top 32. But before we can get on into things, I would like to ask, if you are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, to please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. Not only is it free, I put out content every single day to help you guys win your 2021 fantasy football championship. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure to leave a like on today's video to help boost the video up the algorithm so that more beautiful people like yourself can hear about my week number 9 wide receiver rankings. I would also like to ask, if you guys are on Twitter and would like to follow me on there, to please do so at NotoriousFNTSY. The link to my Twitter is also down below in the video description. So without further ado, let's get into my week number 9 wide receiver rankings. We begin at number 1, the headliner, Cooper Kupp, wide receiver of the LA Rams, going up against the Tennessee Titans. At this point in the season, to me, there's basically no argument from anyone when you put Cooper Kupp as the number 1 wide receiver. This guy's just so fucking good. He's the number 1 wide receiver on one of the best offenses in the NFL, and this dude is just getting peppered with targets game in and game out. Going up against a not-so-hot Tennessee Titans defense, this could be another 30-plus point performance out of Cooper Kupp. I love Cooper Kupp this week, and again, there's going to be very little debate. Maybe, hey, oh, Nick, maybe you should rank Tyreek Hill at number 1. Okay, that's all right as well, but I don't think there's going to be too much dispute with this. Cooper Kupp is fucking amazing, and there's really not too much to add onto Cooper Kupp. Everyone knows the guy's great. He sees so many targets every single game, and going up against the Tennessee Titans, where maybe they lay the smack down here, Cooper Kupp could put up 30-plus fantasy points. At number 2, we got Tyreek Hill, wide receiver of the Kansas City Chiefs, going up against the Green Bay Packers. Last week, we saw a heavy dosage of Tyreek Hill going up against the New York Football Giants, and Travis Kelce was kind of just phased out of the game. At points in the game, we saw the Giants double covering Travis Kelce. Now, is that going to happen every single week where Travis Kelce has a very bad game? Probably not, right? Because Travis Kelce is one of the best tight ends in the NFL. The Kansas City Chiefs got a win last week up against the Giants. This game up against the Green Bay Packers is even more interesting because Aaron Rodgers is not going to be the quarterback for the team, as they're going to look to Jordan Love because Aaron Rodgers has COVID. How long does that kind of play out? Will Aaron Rodgers play next week? That's definitely up in the air, but he is definitely out this week. Tyreek Hill always has that potential to be a game-breaking wide receiver, meaning this guy, all he needs is like 5 targets, and he could have 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. All he needs to correct a bad day is just 1 catch for 70 yards and a touchdown, and it wouldn't surprise you at all if he did that. So I love Tyreek Hill this week up against the Green Bay Packers defense. At number 3, we have Jamar Chase, wide receiver of the Cincinnati Bengals, going up against the Cleveland Browns. Now, when it comes to Jamar Chase, I basically say this in every single video. So many people, including myself, were so wrong about Jamar Chase. In preseason, Jamar Chase doesn't look very good. In training camp, the guy's dropping the ball. There's all these bad reports circling around the name of Jamar Chase. So everyone consistently kept on talking him down lower and lower in the draft boards until eventually Jamar Chase was basically just a steal. People drafted him, and the guy's been insane. Basically, a couple of days before the season, this man came out and said that he couldn't even see the NFL football, that he needed those white lines that are on the NCAA football to be able to see it. And I was laughing. I was like, what a bunch of idiots to draft Jamar Chase. This guy can't even see an NFL football. And then in week number 1, I was basically dancing on the man's grave before he even played an NFL game, and then the man goes out there and balls out. He's been balling out every single game. This guy, even in his down games, is scoring these touchdowns. Last week up against the New York Jets was a bad game for the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals were expected to lay a smackdown on the Jets. Everyone unanimously, me, myself, my mother, basically every single person who watches football, you didn't even have to watch football to realize that the Jets were going to get smacked the shit out of by the Cincinnati Bengals, and that doesn't end up happening. I believe that the Bengals were overlooking the Jets. They were looking to this game in week number 9 up against the Cleveland Browns. I do not expect the Cincinnati Bengals to come out looking as sluggish as they did up against the Jets. I think this is a solid matchup for Jamar Chase, and I would expect him to have a solid showing. At number 4, we have Devonta Adams, wide receiver of the Green Bay Packers, going up against the Kansas City Chiefs in Kansas City. This is where my rankings definitely differentiate from other rankings, because I think a lot of people are going to get nervous about Jordan Love being the starting quarterback. Now, is Jordan Love Aaron Rodgers? Of course not. Of course he is not, but I don't think that going from Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love is going to completely derail the upside of Devonta Adams. Jordan Love, this is his first ever NFL start. Do you think this man is going to just be looking to spread the ball out to a bunch of wide receivers? In my opinion, I think he's going to take the safe option. And the safest option on the team is just to feed Devonta Adams. You put the ball anywhere near this man, he's going to go ahead and catch it. So I think that Jordan Love is going to feed Devonta Adams in this game. And I think even though Jordan Love's the starting quarterback, we could see Devonta Adams perform up to that level you're used to with Aaron Rodgers. And going up against the Kansas City Chiefs defense, this is an amazing matchup. So I expect Devonta Adams to have a big game. If Aaron Rodgers was in this game, I'd probably have Devonta Adams as the number 1 wide receiver. So I'm definitely not looking to panic. Devonta Adams, wide receiver, number 4. At number 5, we got Deebo Samuel, wide receiver of the San Francisco 49ers, going up against the Arizona Cardinals. Deebo Samuel is dealing with an injury, but it seems as though he's going to end up playing in this game with Jimmy Guap, Jimmy G-Spot, Jimmy Pornstar as the starting quarterback. Deebo Samuel, just like Jamar Chase, took the world by storm because in Jamar Chase's situation, everyone was all sold in on Mr. T. Higgins. Everyone was like, oh man, T. Higgins is going to be great because Jamar Chase hasn't been playing too well in preseason, in practice, in training camp, all of that. And then we have Mr. Deebo Samuel. Brandon Ayuk was amazing last year. Brandon Ayuk this, Brandon Ayuk that. And then bada bing, bada boom, Deebo Samuel is the number 1 wide receiver on the team. And Brandon Ayuk is just not really all there for the team. Now, they will be having George Kittle return in this game. How does that affect Deebo Samuel? To me, not by much, because Deebo Samuel was still eating like Ezekiel Elliott on Thanksgiving dinner, just scoring all types of fantasy football points with George Kittle in the lineup. So I expect Deebo to have a great game, even though he's banged up. At number 6, we have A.J. Brown, wide receiver of the Tennessee Titans, going up against the L.A. Rams in L.A. I understand this may be a bit of a scary matchup going up against Jalen Ramsey, but A.J. Brown is the main target there. Julio Jones isn't going to be playing, and Derrick Henry is gone. Derrick Henry's done for the season, so we're going to be seeing Adrian Peterson and Jeremy McNichols. I think that A.J. Brown is going to see a humongous target share in this game. I expect them to pepper him with targets. A.J. Brown has played really well the last 2 weeks. The beginning of his season was a complete and utter fucking disaster, but as of recently, he's really started to catch fire. I like A.J. Brown in this game. I understand the matchup is a little bit scary. That's why he's the wide receiver 6, but I'm still pretty confident in A.J. Brown. At number 7, we have Stefan Diggs, wide receiver of the Buffalo Bills, going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars in Jacksonville. Last week up against the Miami Dolphins, I expected Stefan Diggs to go to Pound Town. The Miami Dolphins defense could be categorized, metaphoricalized, if that's even the word used there, I'm not a fucking Webster's dictionary, as Swiss cheese, because they got holes all over the place. It's like a glory hole on defense for the Miami Dolphins. They can't do anything, but then last week, they magically woke up to the occasion and played well up against the Buffalo Bills in the first half of the game. In the second half of the game, basically everything flipped. They went from playing great defense to getting pounded in the ass. But at the end of the day, Stefan Diggs still has yet to have that humongous game, that amazing game. When is it ever going to happen? Stefan Diggs is the clear numero uno wide receiver on the Buffalo Bills. He still has a lot of value going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars, but he has yet to really prove to me that this guy deserves to be ranked inside the top 10. I still keep doing it. It's like I'm fucking brainwashed by the guy or something. He keeps having these great matchups, and he keeps not performing up to my excellent expectations I had for him in the offseason. He's still a great wide receiver. This is a great matchup. Gotta rank him inside the top 10. Wide receiver, number 7. At number 8, we got CD Lamb, wide receiver of the Dallas Cowboys, going up against the Denver Broncos. Seems as though Dickie Dak Prescott will be back under center as the signal caller of the Dallas Cowboys in this game. Last week, going up against the Minnesota Vikings, we saw Cooper big time rush absolutely tear up the Minnesota Vikings defense. So even if this was Cooper rush, I would still be very excited to start CeeDee Lamb, but it's not. It is likely going to be Mr. Dakota Prescott, and that just ups my confidence even further in CeeDee Lamb. Game in and game out, this guy has the upside to be a top 5 wide receiver, as does his teammate Amari Cooper, who we are going to be talking about a little bit later. At number 9, we got Deontay Johnson, wide receiver of the Pittsburgh Steelers, going up against the Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bears defense, I say this in every single video, so people are probably tired of hearing this, but the defense over the last couple of years, they were a scary sight. If you went up against that defense, you were like, holy shit, the Bears could absolutely eviscerate this offense. But this year, it's like just a watered down version. The Chicago Bears defense just isn't all that good. And it sucks to see because they're one of the best defenses in the NFL over the last couple of years. Going up against Deontay Johnson, I expect this man to wipe the fucking floor with the Chicago Bears. Deontay Johnson is just so heavily involved inside this Pittsburgh Steelers offense. When Big Ben is on fire, Deontay Johnson is on fire. When Big Ben is playing like complete and utter fucking horseshit out there, Deontay Johnson is on fire, because it seems like even when Ben's having those down games, that the connection with Deontay Johnson is just so strong. So even if this game does go negatively Beasley, right, and the Pittsburgh Steelers aren't playing as well as I thought they would, then Deontay Johnson will still have a very solid game. So I like Deontay Johnson here up against the Bears. At number 10, we got Justin Jefferson of the Minnesota Vikings going up against the Baltimore Ravens. Justin Jefferson struggled mightily up against the Dallas Cowboys defense last week, but that's okay, right? Having one down game isn't going to completely persuade me away from, in my opinion, one of the better wide receivers talent-wise in the NFL. Going up against the Baltimore Ravens, this could be a pass-heavy game because this could be a back-and-forth affair because I think the Minnesota Vikings may be able to get it going in this game and be able to have a back-and-forth affair with the Baltimore Ravens. If that is the case, we're going to be seeing a lot more passing and a lot more upside for Mr. Double J, Justin Jefferson. So I definitely got to keep him inside of my top 10 on the week. But before we move on into wide receivers 11 through 20, I would like to ask if you have ended up enjoying thus far to please make sure to hit that like button down below as well as hitting that subscribe button. I would appreciate it a ton. Next up, we move to wide receiver number 11. Keenan Allen, wide receiver of the LA Chargers, going up against the Philadelphia Eagles. Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, they're both great wide receivers in the NFL, but for fantasy purposes, they haven't been completely consistent game in and game out. We've been seeing a lot of Austin Eckler from this LA Chargers offense. Justin Herbert, the pervert, not having an amazing season, but still looks pretty good. Obviously, he's still a pretty solid quarterback. So Keenan Allen going up against the Philadelphia Eagles. I understand the Philadelphia Eagles absolutely shut down the Detroit Lions offense last week. I don't think they're going to be able to do that up against the LA Chargers. And if the Philadelphia Eagles offense is able to run the ball kind of effectively, because the LA Chargers defense sucks absolute donkey hog against the run, then we could see this being a more high-scoring game, and Justin Herbert and the LA Chargers would be throwing the ball a little bit more, and Keenan Allen should have a solid performance. At number 12, we have Amari Cooper, Mr. AC, the air conditioning himself of the Dallas Cowboys, going up against the Denver Broncos. The Denver Broncos defense, they traded away Von Miller. They said, fuck it, this season is not going well. Von, go get a ring in LA. We'll take the picks. It is what it is. Amari Cooper has been a very reliable option week in and week out for the Dallas Cowboys. He played quite well with Cooper Rush last week. I think he should play well with Dak Prescott. Across a season-long standpoint, there are obviously going to be down games for Cooper. There's going to be down games for all of these wide receivers. But at the end of the day, I am very excited to fire up any of these Dallas Cowboys wide receivers, especially the big two, Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb, game in and game out. The upside is just so high for this offense because of how good Dak Prescott is. So I like Amari Cooper as wide receiver 12. At number 13, we have D-Hop, wide receiver of the Arizona Cardinals, going up against the San Francisco 49ers in San Francisco. Now, I understand that there's a lot of talk about how Kyler Murray is going to play. Kyler Murray this, Kyler Murray that. Why in the fuck does everyone seem to think Kyler Murray is going to play? I think Cliff Kingsbury is deploying a smokescreen. I don't think Kyler Murray is going to play. Cliff Kingsbury went out and said, oh, Kyler's getting these virtual snaps. He said something like that. What does that mean? What, like, mental snaps? Is he playing fucking Madden on the sideline? What is happening? What is happening? How is Kyler going to be ready to go if he doesn't practice all week? How? So I think Colt McCoy is going to be the quarterback. Oh, Nick, does that scare you away from D-Hop? No. But it doesn't make me as confident. That's why he's not ranked as a top 12 wide receiver on the week. He definitely disappointed last week up against the Green Bay Packers. Did end up getting banged up in that game. I expect him to look pretty solid here up against the Niners. So he's going to be my wide receiver number 13. Number 14, we got Mr. Wiki DJ Moore, wide receiver of the Carolina Panthers, going up against the New England Patriots. Early on in the season, DJ Moore was on top of the fucking world, and I was banging the drum aggressively. Fire up DJ Moore. And then recently, he has been on a downward spiral back to normalcy. Now, this week, are we going to be seeing Mono Man Sam Darnold as the starting quarterback? I don't think so. It seems like it's going to be P.J. Walker. So you match P.J. Walker with the fact that he's going to be the starting quarterback, with the fact that this offense hasn't been flowing as great recently. I'm just a little bit nervous about DJ Moore. Now, I'm still going to start him. I don't love the matchup up against the Patriots. He's still a great wide receiver. He's still going to be very heavily targeted in this game. Just a little bit worried about DJ Moore at this point in the season. At number 15, we got Mr. Mike Williams, wide receiver of the LA Chargers, going up against the Philadelphia Eagles. More recently, Mike Williams' floor doesn't seem to be as high because he hasn't been as consistent, but his ceiling is still a top 10, top 5 wide receiver game in and game out. So I'm going to continue to roll out Mr. Mike Williams this week up against a not-so-hot Eagles defense. At number 16, we have Robert Woods going up for the LA Rams. Obviously, I almost said going up against the LA Rams, going up against the Tennessee Titans. Robert Woods has found a little bit more consistency as of recently. The upside up against the Tennessee Titans is very high. Now, there is a chance that Robert Woods gets cucked by the fact that Cooper Kupp just drops 50 points in this game, right? Just has a humongous game. I'm ranked as my number 1 wide receiver. I could easily see him just dropping 40 fantasy points on the Tennessee Titans. I can see that because of how uber involved he is in this offense with Matthew Stafford. But at the end of the day, that is like the 1% scenario where he scores all those points. There's also a very good scenario where Robert Woods moseys his way on into the end zone, where Robert Woods gets a decent amount of targets in this matchup as well up against the Titans. So I'm firing up Robert Woods with confidence. Again, obviously he's not as good as Cooper Kupp. That has been made clear all season long for fantasy football. But at the end of the day, you still got to roll with Mr. Bobby Trees. At number 17, we got Hollywood Brown, wide receiver of the Baltimore Ravens, going up against the Minnesota Vikings. Hollywood Brown has had some down games on the season. I understand that is definitely a mark against his name, but at the end of the day, the upside for Hollywood Brown week in and week out is so immensely high because he's one of those wide receivers that is a speedster that all it really takes is a couple of catches for him to get 150 yards, for him to get multiple touchdowns. I expect him to have a very solid showing here up against the Minnesota Vikings. The reason why he's not ranked as high is because I feel like ranking him kind of at 17 does kind of account for the fact that his upside is really high, but there's also going to be some games where he has 5 catches, but he doesn't bust off a big one, and he just has an all-right game. So wide receiver 17 seems pretty reasonable in my book. At number 18, we have Adam Thielen, wide receiver of the Minnesota Vikings, going up against the Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore. To me, Adam Thielen is basically a must-start wide receiver at this point in the season. The guy has seen so many targets in the last couple of weeks. He saw 13 targets in one game and 9 in the other. He has scored 1 touchdown in each of the last 2 games, so I'm going to assume he plays quite well again here up against the Baltimore Ravens. I typically ride when a player is on fire. I keep on playing him, so this week up against the Baltimore Ravens, I like Adam Thielen a lot. I do believe, though, that Justin Jefferson will have a much better showing this week. At number 19, we have T. Higgins, wide receiver of the Cincinnati Bengals, going up against the Cleveland Browns. Now, earlier on in the video, when I was talking about Jamar Chase, it may have seemed like I was trying to diminish the name of my main man, T. Higgins. But at the end of the day, the reason why I said that was because so many people were high on T. Higgins, including myself, because Jamar Chase was sucking ass in preseason. He wasn't playing very well in training camp, all that. But in reality, Jamar Chase is the clear number 1 wide receiver. Now, is that terrible for T. Higgins? No. Does it limit his upside? Yes, but any given game, we could see T. Higgins outscore Jamar Chase. T. Higgins could still easily have a very solid showing here up against the Cleveland Browns. So I like T. Higgins in this game. And again, I really do think the Bengals are going to have a very strong performance in this matchup. At number 20, we have Chase Claypool, wide receiver of the Steelers, going up against the Chicago Bears. Chase Claypool has been far from what a lot of people thought he would be this season. Even with Juju Smith-Schuster out, he has not been amazing. But going up against the Chicago Bears, I do think this offense is going to flourish in this matchup. So I got Chase Claypool as a top 20 wide receiver. Definitely far more confident, though, in Mr. Deontay Johnson. Next up, we move to wide receivers 21 through 30. At number 21, we got Brandon Cooks, wide receiver of the Houston Texans, going up against the Miami Dolphins in Miami. Last week, the Houston Texans took on the LA Rams, and they were getting the shit just beat out of them. A relentless beating by the Rams offense, as well as the Rams defense. The offense couldn't move the ball, but then the fourth quarter, the Rams defense just kind of said, whatever, we'll just give up a little bit. The Texans end up covering the game, and the Texans gave the ball to Brandon Cooks a lot in the fourth quarter. I expect this game to be a lot closer. Tyrod Taylor is going to be under center for the Texans, so I think that gives a lot more confidence in myself, at least, in wanting to start Brandon Cooks. I like Brandon Cooks, wide receiver, number 21. At 22, we got Cadarius Tony, wide receiver of the Giants, going up against the Las Vegas Raiders. For Cadarius Tony, he hasn't been amazing. He actually is a very talented player. The issue for Tony is the fact that the guy's basically made of fucking glass. You blow at him the wrong way, and the guy fucking topples over and breaks 7 bones in his body, all right? That's the issue with Kadarius Toney. If this guy's able to stay healthy, he could put up 150 yards easily on any defense. He is that talented of a wide receiver. The biggest worry, though, is him staying healthy. So that's why he's wide receiver number 22. The upside is there, but there is the injury risk. At number 23, we got Jalen Waddle away. Waddle, till the very next day. Bum, 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 bum. Wide receiver of the Miami Dolphins, going up against the Houston Texans. Seems as though Devontae Parker has suffered a setback in practice, which means that it's very unlikely that he gets the nod to play up against the Houston Texans, which would mean that without Will Fuller, Jalen Waddle is the clear number 1 target on the team. Now, Mr. Mike Licky on Mike Gesicki is still going to be heavily targeted in this game. Waddle did not perform all that well last week up against the Buffalo Bills, but he was still targeted relatively heavily in that game. Going up against the Houston Texans, you just gotta love the number one wideout going up against them. We saw Cooper Kupp take a shit right on their chest and smear it in Odell Beckham Jr. style last week, so I expect Jalen Waddle to have a solid performance. At number 24 and 25, we have a pair of Buffalo Bills wide receivers. We got Emanuel Sanders at 24, Cole Beasley at 25, both going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, last week, I was heavy onto Emanuel Sanders. I really did think, and I'm a Dolphins fan, I thought the Dolphins were going to get murdered, O.J. Simpson style, stabby stab, by the Buffalo Bills offense. I thought the Bills were going to trounce us. Every single time we play the Buffalo Bills, when Josh Allen's the quarterback, he just beats us down. So I was like, holy shit, Emmanuel Sanders, he might score 2 touchdowns. He might have a big day just like he had earlier on this season when we played up against the Bills. That was not the case. That was not the case at all. Emmanuel Sanders saw 4 targets, but he was disappointment. The Dolphins' defense looks good in the first half, like I explained with Stefan Diggs. In the second half, they got their back blown out. The Buffalo Bills just didn't have a great day for Emmanuel Sanders. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to just run away due to one bad game, right? He scored 0 points. So I understand why some people may panic, might get a little bit nervous. I'm still firing up Emmanuel Sanders with confidence. Wide receiver, number 24. Number 25, like I said, we got Cole Beasley. Cole Beasley, even in that not-so-hot showing from the Bills' offense early on, Cole Beasley still had a good game, so maybe you might want to rank Cole Beasley one ahead of Emmanuel Sanders. But to me, it's a complete and utter fucking coin flip between the two. I like both of them this week up against the Jaguars. At number 26, we got Cortland Sutton, wide receiver of the Denver Broncos, going up against the Dallas Cowboys in Dallas. Last week, a lot of people started to get a little bit nervous on Sutton because Jerry Judy was going to be coming back. And Jerry Judy did return, and he didn't do all that much, while Cortland Sutton also didn't do all that much. This week, the team is also without Noah Fant, so maybe we can be a little bit more comfortable with Cortland Sutton. Don't love him, though, now with Jerry Judy back. I thought we would see a strong performance, but we didn't. This week up against the Cowboys could be a bounce-back game, so I'm not 100% sold out on Cortland Sutton, just a little bit more nervous than I was last week. At 27, we got Jarvis Landry, wide receiver of the Browns, going up against the Cincinnati Bengals without Odell Beckham Jr. Wah, cut me. Fucking what a bitch that guy is. I say this in every video as like a joke that I like hate Odell Beckham Jr. or something. At the end of the day, it takes 2 to tango. Odell Beckham Jr., maybe, I don't know why. He just was on Baker's bad side or something. Like Baker couldn't fucking hit him. It's probably half to do with Odell himself, half to do with Baker, maybe more blame to Baker. But at the end of the day, Odell Beckham Jr. is gone. Where is he going to sign? Let me know in the comments section. Is it going to be the Dolphins? I don't think so, but that's one of the bigger names I've seen. The Packers, the Saints. Which team is going to be? Write it in down below. Where's Odell going? So without Odell, I think Jarvis Landry is a reasonable start. Now, he's one of those guys that you just play every week. You know he's going to get you like 10, 12, 13 fantasy points. He's never going to really pop off and get that 30-point huge performance that some of the other wide receivers on this list can. Like you could see Jalen Waddle scoring 30 points. I could see Emmanuel Sanders, Cole Beasley, Cortland Sutton, Cadarius Tony. I could see all the guys ahead of him on this list doing that. I don't see the same outcome for Jarvis Landry, but he's still very consistent, and without Odell, he should be seeing more work. So I expect Jarvis to play a good game here, but again, the upside is kind of capped by the fact that he just never does that. He just never has those huge games, at least in Cleveland. In Miami, he did. At number 28, we got Hunter Renfro, wide receiver of the Las Vegas Raiders, going up against the New York Football Giants. Darren Waller seems like he's going to be good to go in this game. Obviously, no Henry Ruggs. Again, not to get super fucking away from football. Please do not drink and drive. Henry Ruggs fucked up his whole life from doing that. Do not drink and drive. Henry Ruggs is gone. Hunter Renfro, the clear number 1 wide receiver there. So I'm playing up against the Giants defense. I think that's a fine matchup again. His upside isn't super high, but he is a relatively safe player. At number 29, we got Jacoby Myers of the New England Patriots going up against the Carolina Panthers in Carolina. I love Jacoby Myers, but at the end of the day, this man's just allergic to scoring touchdowns. Every single week I get here, pretend this is the microphone, even though I'm speaking into the microphone, I say, oh, you know what? This is going to be the week, right? It eventually has to happen. The curse has to be lifted. Jacoby Myers is finally going to have a great game, and every single week, he takes his fucking metaphorical cock out and slaps me right in the face with the thing because he never does it. It seems like it's always going to happen, and then it magically just depletes away. It goes away. Like his touchdown gets fucking snapped by Thanos from the Avengers. I don't think that Jacoby Myers is a bad player. He just can't score, and that makes him sit here at number 29. At number 30, we got Marvin Jones, wide receiver of the Jacksonville Jaguars, going up against the no one circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. This is not a great matchup, but he is the number 1 receiver on the Jags, so there is upside, but again, That's kind of what you got to talk yourself into when you play Marvin Jones, right? He's the number one guy there. That's about it. That's really the only upside with Marvin Jones. He's been a big disappointment for me this year. Next up, we got wide receivers 31 through 32. Jerry Judy, Mr. Double J for the Broncos, going up against the Cowboys. Maybe he has that bounce back game this week, right? Didn't play all that well, but earlier on in the season for the Broncos, he was the clear number one wide receiver for the team. So I do expect Jerry Judy to have an all right game. But again, until we really see him have that game like he had in week number 1 before he got hurt, then I'm kind of just backtracking on Jerry Judy. At number 32, we got Tyler, Boyd, wide receiver of the Cincinnati Bengals, going up against the Browns. Typically, we see an odd man out scenario for the Bengals, meaning that, like, if Jamar Chase and Higgins are healthy, then Tyler Boyd's the odd man out. But Boyd is still being targeted, and if this is a close game, we could see a higher passing attack game from the Bengals, and Tyler Boyd could have just an all-right game again. No one I'm super excited about, but typically once we get down to that range of like wide receiver 28 through 32, I'm not really that excited about any of them. So thank you guys all so much for watching. If you did end up enjoying, please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. While you're down there, make sure to leave a like on today's video as well. I love you guys all so much. I hope you have a great rest of your guys' day, and as always, goodbye.